Whether you're capturing distant wildlife or expansive landscapes, choosing the right lens is crucial. Today, we have two new lenses from Sony, the Ultra Telephoto FE 400 to 800mm f6.3 to 8 G OSS and the ultra-wide FE 16mm f1.8G. They're obviously completely different types of lenses with different use cases, so this isn't a comparison of the two, but we are going to take a look at what makes them great. Things like their build quality and usability, the image quality, and their pricing. So first things first, the 400 to 800mm is Sony's longest reaching zoom lens to date, offering unparalleled flexibility for photographers who need to adapt quickly to varying distances. Its internal zoom mechanism maintains balance, making handheld shooting more manageable despite its size and weight. I would, however, recommend using a tripod or a monopod for extra stability. On the other hand, the 16mm f1.8 is a compact ultra-wide-angle prime lens, ideal for landscapes, architecture, and astrophotography. Both lenses are made to the high standard we expect out of a Sony G lens, and both feel excellent in the hand and are easy to use. The 400 to 800mm is the complete opposite of a small lens, but it's really not that big of an issue. You have to look at it for what it is, and what it is an ultra telephoto lens. Looking at it that way, it's actually reasonably compact. It easily fit inside my camera bag along with everything else I needed for the shooting day, and look at it this way. Some ultra telephoto lenses require their own bag to be transported. And it's not exactly light, coming in at 5.6 pounds, but for me, I was able to use it handheld. The 400 to 800mm has most of the features you'd expect from a lens of this variety, like image stabilization, weather sealing, programmable buttons, and the standard switches you'd expect on a telephoto lens. Some small things I would have liked to have different on this lens would have been a drop-in filter slot instead of having to use a 105mm front thread for ND and polarizers. The other small gripe I have is that the tripod foot can only be removed if you remove the 4 screws. Anyways, those are two small issues that can easily be looked past. In the case of the 16mm, the buttons and dials are exactly what you'd expect from a modern Sony lens: an aperture dial and click-declick switch, an AF/MF switch and ring, and finally, the custom function button on the side. The 16mm is also weather resistant to a bit of dust and rain. With a front thread of 67mm, which is a fairly common filter thread size on Sony prime lenses, it is possible to only have to buy one set of filters. Because this lens is so small and light, it is well suited to being put in small places. In addition to that, the close focus distance when using manual focus is 1.5 inches, making it perfect to get close-up detail shots while maintaining a wide angle of view. All in all, both of these lenses perform at a high level and can help you make some great images. And speaking of great images, let's talk about image quality. I shot all of the photos you're seeing with the A7R5, so we are giving these lenses just about the best camera to test out their quality with. As we progress to higher f-stops, the quality stays fairly consistent until you get above f22. This lens can reach a minimum aperture of f36 and is pretty soft when stopped down that far. Now moving on to the 16mm, we have some very different issues to look at. As the 16mm is a significantly wider lens, we get a bit of a fisheye effect, but with a bit of post-correction, you can get those lines looking more straight. And you can see the center and edges get a bit softer the closer you get to f22. To be honest, with either of these lenses, probably you'll want to go no lower than f11, as that's when the sharpness starts to really dip off. The 16mm is a sharper lens, but that is to be expected of a prime lens. It's significantly less complicated, and there is way less glass for light to push through. I wish the 400 to 800mm was a bit sharper, but all my real-world tests were done in less than ideal weather, meaning that it was very overcast and rainy. So I'm sure if I had a brighter day to shoot on, I would be more impressed with the results. Now moving on to one of the most important aspects for a lens to have: reasonable pricing. This isn't to say that the 400 to 800mm isn't expensive, because it is, but in comparison to telephoto prime lenses from Sony like the 600mm or 300mm, it's a bargain. Its most direct comparison is the Sony 200 to 600mm, which comes in at $2,489. They have a similar focal length throw of 400mm, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they fill the exact same purpose. The 200 to 600mm covers medium range to far away subjects, whereas the 400 to 800mm for sure is intended for subjects that are a long distance away. When you see a price discrepancy like we do here, it is a bit confusing, but if you need that extra range, it is for sure worth it. The 16mm is considerably more affordable, coming in at $1,099 Canadian. That's exactly $1,000 less expensive than its older G Master equivalent. Personally, I would buy this 16mm over the G Master. The amount of times I use a 16mm couldn't justify the over $2,000 price tag for the G Master, but being just over $1,000 for the G equivalent makes it a very tempting option. Well, there you have it. That's the new from Sony. The 16mm f1.8G and the 400 to 800mm f6.3 to 8 G OSS. Two very different lenses from completely opposite ends of the focal length spectrum. Both are somewhat niche, but for those who need either, each lens will quickly become indispensable. Get yours today at Vistek.ca, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.